Hello everyone, this is Jia Sarajay. A warm welcome once again to Hyderabad Runners weekly webinar series, Beyond the Track. We hope you are all taking measures to stay safe and healthy. Hyderabad Runners promotes running, fitness, and active lifestyles through its thousands of volunteers, mentors, and ambassadors. Couch to 5K, Club Run, Outdoor Kids, Train and Shine, Kids Run, and our signature Airtel Hyderabad Marathon, AHM, are just a few of our initiatives. In our endeavor to keep you constantly aware and educated, we bring to you Beyond the Track, a 1 hour live webinar series of conversations with some of the highly distinguished experts from running and sports field to help you all equipped with both theoretical knowledge and practical training. Welcome to the Women's Month of Running on eve of International Women's Day this March. To succeed in marathons, good cross training along with endurance and strength training becomes an integral part of their workout regime. It is very important for women athletes to know how their control regime translates into amazing performance on the track. In this 40th episode of Beyond the Track, we are honored to connect you to Vaishnavi Sayanath, runner, dancer, Kalari yoga instructor, Rashmi Sabanwat, national gold medalist in swimming and diving, as well as certified swim and yoga instructor, Pratibha Agarwal, founder director, Anahata Yoga Zone, as they share how their swimming, yoga, and cycling experiences drive their successful runs. As we endeavor to create a smooth learning experience for you all, continue to post your questions in the comment section. Our moderator for today is friend and co-runner Neelima Gudaru, who herself is a triathlete and randonneur and the first woman across AP Telangana to cycle 1000 kilometers. Without further ado, I'd like to invite her to introduce and welcome our speakers for today. Over to you, Neelima.
Thank you, Jia. Hello and welcome again to your favorite show, Beyond the Track. Continuing the series of women-centric webinars we are having this month. Today we have not one, not two, but three wonderful women who have made remarkable progress in their fields. Our first guest today is no stranger to us. A lot of us know her, been to her for training. It's none other than Pratibha Agarwal. She is founder, director, and instructor at Anahata Yoga Zone. The institute has 3 branches in Hyderabad, training hundreds of people. Pratibha's motto is to inspire people to adopt yoga as a holistic approach to lead a healthy life. During lockdown, Anahata Yoga Zone conducted online classes, not just for individuals and corporates, but also for our very own Hyderabad runners. Pratibha is RYT 500, RYT 200 certified trainer. She is highly proficient in Hatha Yoga, Power Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga, Iyengar Yoga, traditional yoga, restorative yoga, aerial yoga, acro yoga, Pilates. Wait, that's not all. Laughter yoga, chair yoga, and the list is endless. Pratibha, we'd love to hear about some of these and also some breathing exercise later in the show. Welcome to the show, Pratibha.
Thank you, Neelima.
Our second guest today, Rashmi Sabanwat, is a corporate employee turned to fitness enthusiast. Rashmi is a national gold medalist in swimming and also diving. She was introduced to swimming at a young age of 5. Since then, she participated in state and national level events and bagged many championships. Her latest achievement was in National Masters Aquatic Championship 2019, where she won 4 golds and 2 silver medals. She is an open water swimming specialist and has completed Sunk Rock to Gateway of India sea swimming twice. She is certified ASCA Level 2 swim trainer, certified yoga instructor, and co-founder of VFit Yoga and Fitness Mumbai. Welcome, Rashmi.
Hi, Neelima.
Hi. Our third speaker today is multi-talented, passionate about many facets in life, from being Bharatanatyam dancer, choreographer, to working towards women empowerment through fitness, to being an ultra-marathoner. Vaishnavi Sayanath dons many hats. Gifted with natural flair for dance, Vaishnavi is one of the first to combine Kalari yoga and dance in Hyderabad and has performed on several stages both in India and abroad. She won many awards like Youth Icon of Andhra Pradesh, Women Achievers, Pride of India, etc. She runs her own institution, Vaishnavi Natya Center, where she trains students in Bharatanatyam and Kalaripayattu. Vaishnavi graduated from IIM Bangalore and is also a PhD student. While we talk about yoga and swimming, let's also get a unique perspective on how dance and martial arts can help us in running. Welcome, ladies. Very happy to have all of you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our speakers today come from diverse backgrounds and diverse profiles. While they all specialize in their fields, there's one thing they all have in common, and that's yoga. So let's start with it. So this question is for all three of you. When and how did yoga happen? How did it change your lives? And how did it help you change or transform others' lives? Rashmi, you want to go first?
Yeah. Yoga came into my life ever since I started training for diving. Okay, diving is again another type of aerial acrobat where we perform different styles in the air and then enter into water. Okay, so back then I used to participate in both swimming and diving events. So every day we used to train for minimum 3 to 4 hours, and along with actual swimming and diving training, the dryland training was equally important. Okay, which is anyways for every sport. So my coach had introduced sun salutation that time as part of our warm up. Okay, every day we used to take 5 rounds of swimming pool and then we perform sun salutation. So back then we didn't know it was actually yoga. We were so small to understand that. But then later on I evolved and it became part of my life. And yes, when it comes to changing my life and all, yes, yoga plays a very major role in terms of not only the physical fitness but also in the mental wellness. It helps really to maintain the balance in the life, to have a focused mentality and clear thoughts in the mind. And in terms of changing society and people, definitely yes. Okay, I was working with corporate. Okay, and where I was working, it was a desk job completely, where for 7 to 8 hours every day we used to sit on a desk, and people around me were not actually that fitness enthusiasts. Okay, they were at least bothered about fitness, and among them, me being an athlete for quite a few of number of years, and being a fitness enthusiast, obviously the sharing of experience, the exchange of thoughts that would occur, and which definitely, inspired people to take fitness into their life. That is how, it's actually a pleasure to, look at people who get inspired by you and then they start doing something just because they have seen you taking a fitness as a lifestyle.
Absolutely, Rashmi. The joy of you doing, the joy of seeing others do and helping others do is much more than
Yes,
you doing it yourself. Totally
exactly,
understand.
absolutely.
Yes. Vaishnavi, you're a Kalari yoga expert. That is something we don't hear of very often, right? Is it for everyone? Can you tell us a bit about it?
So basically because of my background in dance, yoga was pretty much there through all the poses and the karnas. It was not called yoga, but it was pretty much there. So I can say I was introduced to it very early in my life. And since I was born and brought up in an atmosphere of dance, my mom being a renowned dancer herself, Rajeshwari Sainath, dance was pretty much it. And how do I create a niche for myself? How do I come out of the shadow of my mother? How do I be different? So this kind of a search ended up me being in Bangalore and getting introduced to Kalari Payattu. It's a martial art form from Kerala. And even I didn't know about it when I started my journey in Kalari Payattu. And but when I practiced it, I could see that there's so much more difference in my performance and my stage presentation, that and there was no looking back after that. This was 8 years ago, and I went to Kerala. I stayed in a Gurukul system. I practiced on mud. I stayed with my teacher. So, and then when I came back to Hyderabad and to teach and to see how people will react to this, and it was not surprising because everyone was like, "What is Kalari Paitu? I know it's something from Kerala. I have no idea what it is." Okay, so from there I had to introduce it combine it with yoga, because intense Kalaripayattu can be sometimes, if not done under supervision. So I had to take elements of Kalari, elements of yoga, and that's I started Kalari yoga, which is doing really well, and it it works wonders for all age groups. And I have, and it's very nice to see kids practicing with senior citizens together in a class for an hour, and the results have pretty much been the same. Whatever target, the kids target versus a senior citizen's target is different, but this is helping them achieve that.
Okay, wonderful.
So today, Kalari yoga is kind of has a place of its own.
Really, it's really surprising. I mean, it's really good to know that it's being accepted, well accepted, and people of all age are accepting it and doing it well. Pratibha?
Okay. Yeah, Nilam. So contrary to what Rashmi and Vaishnavi mentioned, that yoga happened in their lives pretty early. For me, yoga came in when I was 38, 2009. And so I was under medication for depression, for some issues, for some personal reasons. I was under depression and I was under medication. 1.5 years. And one fine day, suddenly I told myself, this is not how I'm going to live my life. I don't want to be dependent on medication. I don't want to be dependent on others. I need to take stock of my own life. And I was introduced to yoga. I mean, there is one aspect of yoga which is called as Trataka, which is candle gazing. It is a dharana practice. So if your mind is fluctuating a lot, it helps to bring your mind in focus. So that was the turning point. And then I went on to do a lot of asanas and yoga and everything. And every time I would go to my yoga class and I would come back, I would feel very good from within. It used to be a very feel good factor. And I always wanted to find out what is the factor that is giving me that feel good factor. And when I asked my teacher, she unfortunately did not have a direct answer to give me. And my quest started from there. I wanted to know what is it that is changing inside me, or which is giving me such feel good factor after a yoga class. That's when the quest took me to the yoga journey. I went on to do trainings in India and abroad. Unfortunately, 2009 in Hyderabad, the yoga scene was in a very nascent stage. There was not much yoga around, I mean, yoga meant it was only about somebody in their 60s doing some kind of joint movement, and that was what yoga was all about. And then when I went abroad to the US and I saw the yoga community there, how vibrant, and like it was all ages coming into the yoga classes and taking it very seriously as a fitness, as a lifestyle. And that is the element that I wanted to bring back to Hyderabad specifically. And somewhere I think I have been successful in doing that, because now we have so many youngsters coming in for yoga, and now of course the scene has changed. So that's like kind of my journey into yoga.
Yes, absolutely. Both yoga and you have evolved along, in this last 12 years. And
yes.
Wonderful to see you get to this place, Pratibha.
Thank you.
I have one question for you, Pratibha. Yoga now seems like a really broad term, and there's so many asanas and so many types of yogas. So how do we know what is right, say, be it for runners or for anyone that wants to pursue yoga to keep good health?
Right. So yes, as you mentioned, there is a lot of yoga that we see around. I mean, but it's the branches of the same tree at the end of the day. So in a yoga class, if your awareness is on the body, on the breath, and on the thoughts and the mind, if all of that is there present in the class, you're doing the yoga right. Whether you're doing a hatha yoga, whether you're doing a power yoga or a vinyasa yoga, whether you're doing your Iyengar style, like not one size suits everybody or fits everybody. Not one yoga can be, very motivating to one person. Each one of us have our individual desires, tastes, and likings. So similarly, you just need to find out where you feel very balanced and you feel very good after the class, and that is your calling, and then you can keep pursuing it. So every yoga, it is the branches of the same tree. As long as there is breath awareness, there is body awareness, and there is a kind of a sense of peace and calm at the end of the class, you're doing the yoga right. So you can choose and pick whatever suits you best. So it's not one is better than the other. It's not like that. It's just what sort of resonates with you and what suits you. That is how it is. And for an individual also, depending on how your physical state or your mental state that day is, you can do a different style of yoga. To give you an example, there is yin yoga, where you hold the postures anywhere between 3 minutes to 20 minutes. You do only about 5 or 6 postures in an entire 1 hour class. So the days where you don't want yourself to physically push yourself too much, you want to take it a little slow and steady. Women in their cycles and their moon cycles, when they want to just take it a little slow. Yin yoga is a very good complementary practice. So you just need to, and now it is available in Hyderabad. Earlier, there was not so many varied styles available. So now there are so many varied styles available. Yes, it can get confusing and can get intimidating for a newcomer, but you just need to know and be at the right place, and you can choose and you can practice.
That's right. We really need a proper trainer who knows it all and who can decide what's right for you.
For every field, not only in yoga, in every field. So likewise in yoga as well. Yes.
Right. And like you mentioned, is it okay to do yoga during periods? That's one question I had.
Okay.
What kinds of, are there certain asanas which are best to do, and are there certain asanas you're best to avoid?
See, again, it is very individual. It will depend from person to person. But if a person is comfortable practicing yoga during their moon cycles, yes, they are allowed to. Only certain inversions they are not supposed to do. So any kind of inversion while in the moon cycles is best avoided. And during these 3 days, it is best recommended. It's not like a fixed thing, but it is best recommended that you do a little more gentle kind of a yoga rather than doing a more of a power yoga or things like that. But again, it is very individual if somebody is used to doing it. So I have my instructor who's right now pregnant. She's in the 2nd trimester and she's doing handstands and Pincha Mayurasana, all the advanced postures. So it'll all depend on where you are in your practice. So yes, you can do yoga in your moon cycles also to sum it up, but do a gentle practice and avoid inversions. Any kind of inversions has to be avoided.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is again for all three of you. You train students of all ages, right? And I saw that Rashmi, Pratibha, you mentioned the ages are from 5 to 85 years and Vaishnavi 5 to 65 years. And I'm sure, Rashmi, you're training students of all ages, right? So how is it working with so many, that age group 5 to 85 or 100? What are the challenges you face? Rashmi, you want to go?
Yeah, there is no as such any age to enter into yoga. Any individual at any age, they can enter, get into wellness and get fit. Okay, but again, there is some if at all any person wants to compete for the competitive train for the competitive training, but the age again matters. The better you start, the earlier you start, the better it would be. Younger person makes much more difference in terms of flexibility, the mobility, and the endurance. Okay, but when it comes to the just a general fitness for any individual, again you can enter at any age and get fit.
Okay, Vaishnavi.
So for me, teaching different age groups in one session, every class is a learning experience. So I have kids as young as 4-year-old coming and starting their journey, and I have second set of kids who are as old as 60 who are coming and starting their journey. Ironically, for me to train students above 40 is a little more easier because they come with a lot of consistency, plan, and determination. And this holds super strong for runners who come and practice Kalari Yoga. They have their plan in mind, they have their consistency, they know what they want, they know how they're progressing. And especially the women in my class, amazing consistency. And to humbly add, they're all podium winners as well. So when they come after, so for me in a Monday class, it's fixed that it'll be a stretch based class because I know Sunday is the long run. They will come into class on Monday and they're like, please let us stretch my quads, stretch my hamstrings. So when kids see that, they're like, why are we doing such basic stretches? And then I have to show them something advanced to motivate them. And when the basic stretches are done, they get to their advanced point. Seeing this journey, the older ones are motivated. So it's a very healthy atmosphere to see a mixed age group practicing together, motivating each other, having some give and take. So for me, this experience is phenomenal.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how about dance? I know you're talking about yoga, right, Vaishnavi? So when it comes to dance, again, how is it teaching adults?
See, initially, it was pretty challenging for me to tell them that, it's okay to dance. For a lot of them, because of the nature of, classical dance, a lot of women would shy off saying, what, this was a childhood dream. Now I'm making my daughter do this.
Right.
And I had to keep talking them into it, saying that, listen, you can also do this. And that's how, so one lady somehow coming in and then looking at her, motivating the others. So it did take its time, but now I see a lot of women coming up, especially after me shifting its base to online. They're practicing from the comfort of their home. So that initial inhibition is gone. So they're happy. So, and once that inhibition is gone, they want to come to class. They want to show off their steps. So it's a good thing that, more and more women are coming out, and I'm getting to teach a lot of women older than me. That kind of motivates me and inspires me that I have a long way to go.
Right, right. The reason I specifically asked dance was I tried to learn Carnatic music in my early 30s. And when I sing and the teacher corrects, I couldn't tell the nuances of it. I'm like, that's how I'm singing. But then my kids would just pick it up and then move on to the next lesson. So I'm like, what is this? And I also learned swimming about the same age, but I was okay swimmer. I was a decent swimmer. I'm like, am I not an art person, or should I have given more time? Or
It's not like that. See, you're going there purely for the joy and as a stress buster. So you need to feel good. So that's the challenge a teacher should kind of understand, that what is the student looking for.
right,
Okay, in order to keep my class going, I can't push you, saying you have to perform in this stage, you have to go in this stage, like how this is your medal, this is my personal best. There's nothing like that. This is something you're doing out of your passion and interest.
right.
So it's the teacher's job to understand how much to push you. So I can't push a 45-year-old saying that, listen, I need you to get that back bend, or I need you to squat down nicely. You are coming here purely to enjoy the process, to live your childhood dream. So this is
Right,
all,
right.
do it in your own pace.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree with that. Pratibha?
So it's very endearing to see the kids doing yoga. It's very, very endearing and it's very rewarding. And the main focus, what I really focus on, and I see it across the variety of children that come into the class, is the posture. Most of the children these days, they are with drooping shoulders and with a slouch back. So the first thing that we do is posture correction. And in yoga, the beauty of yoga is you work with the body and it is working with the mind and the personality. In fact, I always educate the parents, especially of parents of young children. So your child is going to go on stage, okay? There is a competition and the child is going to go on stage, be it dramatics, any kind of performing art. And you're training the child well. Okay, you have to speak like this, you have to walk like this, you have to do this. Make the child do backbends for a week, and you will see the kind of confidence the backbends instill in that child, that that child will be raring and then just be up on stage and will give it his or her shot. So when you're training the children, you are actually developing an entire personality for the child. And then when that child blossoms, and then the parent comes and says what wonders yoga has done to the child's overall personality, that is very rewarding and very endearing. So this is with the children. With a little bit more elderly crowd which comes in, say if we are talking about above 55, 60, they always come up with a mindset, oh, now I can't do this. I am done and over. My body cannot take it. I can't do this. So we start slow with them. We start with them with chair yoga, simple joint movements, and then we start taking them, moving them into bigger range of movements. They themselves are surprised with the kind of things that they can do at that age. So, it's a very broad spectrum, and it really is really endearing to see different age groups blossoming in different ways when they practice together. So it's really I mean, and as rightly Rashmi and Vaishnavi mentioned, there is no age to do yoga. Anybody can do it at any point of time. But you need to know your limitations, and you need to be properly guided, and then you should be doing it. That is very important.
Totally agree. It's so rewarding, right, to see all the young ones and elder ones, everyone do it together. And
Yes.
Absolutely.
what you and Rashmi, you started swimming at the age of 5, right?
Yes.
And then you from pool swimming, competitive swimming, to you moved to open water swimming as well. How did that happen? What is your favorite and why?
Okay. I mean, how did I enter into swimming? I mean, let me put it this way. Okay. I would like to share you some story. You know, uh, swimming happened in my life. Okay. We are three sisters, and we all three are into food. We all three are into. We all three are national gold medalists. Okay. Our story is nothing less than the movie Dangal. Okay. They are also the Fogart sisters. They are also three sisters, and we are also three sisters. In fact, when the movie was released, many of my friends, my colleagues, and a lot of people who knew us, they could they had called us and told us this story is just like you, because the three sisters being in the same field. And the reason behind it was my mother, okay, who was a swimmer, okay, and both my parents also faced the peer pressure of having a male kid, boy kid, okay. So they also had struggled. My mother was a district swimmer, and she wanted to pursue further, but back then in 30 years back, due to unfavorable situations, she got married and had kids back to back, and then she had to stop. She couldn't pursue. But then she had that zeal that if I couldn't do, my daughter should do. But again, situations were not favorable. She enrolled me in swimming at very young age just because of this. Okay, initially it was just a life saving skill, but then it has become part of my life, and it is still there. We have been still swimming. You can say both my parents are fitness enthusiasts, so the that thing that it's there in our blood, the love for water, the love for sports, to be a fitness freak. It's there in our blood. So
Runs in your
that
family.
is how we got it.
It runs in your family.
Yes, it runs, and it is passing on to my daughter also. She also enjoys, water just like anything. She goes. I mean, whenever we go for this open water swimming or go to seashore, she enters into water just like anything. And rest of the crowd, they just look at her and they're like, "Oh my God, she's like a mermaid. What is she doing? She's just getting into. She doesn't have any fear, and she's getting into water just like that and having so much fun." She goes underwater, and whenever we all go, we just get into water. We make all the moves, enjoy underwater swimming, diving, all that. So it is there in the
I
blood.
know, I totally understand. It's a pure joy, and especially there's nothing better than swimming with your, or doing the workouts with your kids, right?
And water is always fun. It's a pure enchanting experience. It's always fun.
And
Doing
Rashmi,
aqua yoga also.
sorry, Rashmi, you gave up your corporate job to pursue your passion, right? And it's not easy to give up a well-paying job and pursue what you love, right? So how did that happen?
See, for me, it's pure true calling. Okay, I was doing my corporate job. I was doing pretty well. I mean, got promoted, and I was been working for almost more than 10 years. But then, along with my job, since I had this passion for sports, I was running my weekend batches, weekend swimming batches. I was conducting workshops. Okay, juggling with corporate job, having 2 days, off on weekends. I was taking batches. And then when I started, I train all kind of age groups. And I have my own swim team whom I train. So, I mean, people were experiencing, they were giving me very good feedback, and that was motivating me further to, conduct more and more, get involved into it again, that passion bringing me up. So I extended my batches. I was juggling with the time, no doubt, early in the morning, 5:30, you get up and conduct your workshop, 6 to 7. I started conducting even on weekends, weekdays. So it got extended, and then a point came wherein I felt like, no, now I should quit and I should get into this. And again, the priority plays a role. Okay, for me, again, the other personal priorities came into my life, wherein I felt like I should be better balanced with my fitness, with my sports career, as well as with my personal career. So I switched on completely, and I had created that background while I was working in a corporate. So that helped me a lot to connect with a lot of people. Even when I quit my job, it wasn't that difficult to start all the way again to get into something. So the background was created along with my job, so
Along
it
with
helped me to
yes.
connect people, and then it it was a smooth journey in that sense, and I was quite enjoying it. It was wonderful, and it
That's
is still going on.
okay, great. Very happy for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Vaishnavi, when did you start dancing and when did you realize that dance was your calling and that you wanted to pursue that as your profession? What does dance mean to you? You're on mute, Vaishnavi.
No, I'm here. Can you
Oh,
hear?
yes, yes.
Well, Neelima, dance was a very natural choice, like how Rashmi's kid is taking water, mermaid.
Right.
Because of my mom, dance became a very natural choice for me. I think even before I entered the world, dance was going on in my life.
Right.
Yeah. So I started performing, in very small roles in group programs when I was 4 year old, 5 year old. And I took up to professional dancing when I was 13. And I decided I kind of got lucky when all my friends were juggling between I don't know what to choose after 12. Should I be a doctor or an engineer? For me, it was a natural choice to become a classical dancer. And I was lucky that my parents also supported me. So here I think I majorly have to thank my dad, Sainath, because to have two artists at home is difficult. It's a lot of challenge because both of us are at times competitive. I did have this phase where in my last of teens I was constantly thinking mom is competition. I was like, why can't she let me do, why should she be there? To realizing that my mom is my spine, she is my backbone. And as of today I feel that I have a really strong spine. My backbone is so strong thanks to my mom that I was able to learn different aspects. I just didn't stop with Bharatnatyam, which is my foundation. I went to Orissa and learned Odissi. I went to Kerala. I went to US and learned contemporary dance only because I knew I had something to fall back on. To realize that Bharatnatyam, my foundation is so strong that I can branch out, learn. And today, if you see my performances, I do take in elements of whatever I have learned and I use it in presentation. So I don't, this also brings me to the fact that I don't, gone are those days where, classical dance was just performed in temples. And, you can, now there's a lot of globalization. So there is dance and yoga, dance and kalari. There's use of different foreign themes like a Greek mythology, women empowerment, social themes, organ donation. So this kind of gave me a lot of scope. My experience in multiple dance forms gave me a lot of scope to experiment with, Bharatnatyam, where I could explain my creativity on stage.
Right. I saw one of your videos where you were dancing with that original sword.
Yes.
What a dance it was. You had the strength of a warrior, the flexibility of a yogini, and the grace of a Bharatanatyam dancer. All of them put together so well. The way you were twisting and turning and carrying those two girls. I'm like, oh, where did you get all the strength from? I wouldn't doubt if you had run an ultra, or I would even believe if you ran 4 ultras back to back with all of that. So is it dance that's helping you run, or is it running that's helping you dance?
Uh, Either ways, I'm improving on my stamina, but I feel because of my foundation in dance, I have been pretty, I was lucky that my stamina was already there. So, and, whether it's running or trekking, one thing is running is something I started because there was a lot of fear of missing out. I
Okay.
didn't want to miss out on anything that's happening. So, and once I started running, I met these amazing people, and who motivated me, and running, trekking, all that. There was a natural. It was not like I had to put in double the effort, but definitely it's something different. So you really need to train differently for everything. It's not like because I did this I can do it. Just that the process was a little more easier on me.
Right. Okay. I love this picture, Vaishnavi. And the moment I saw that, I'm like, oh, dancers also think that, I replaced that with runner. And I'm like, runners can do anything. That's what I always thought. And yeah, absolutely.
Runners only can do these things.
So you agree, right? Runners can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at you.
It's amazing how, when we do things we love, we are passionate about, right? It's not just about, when I'm saying this, it's running that I'm thinking of. And it's not just the physical fitness, it's the ultimate happiness and the attitude, right? I can do anything attitude that it brings along. What an amazing feeling.
It is. And look at you. You are an inspiration.
Oh, thank you, Vaishnavi. Thank you. Pratibha? Yeah, can you tell us a bit about your experience, what is that one part of yoga that everyone can practice regardless of age and fitness levels? What is that one thing which you feel can be the game changer for everyone?
The breathing part in yoga. Any age, anywhere, any person, in any fitness or otherwise, the breath work. See, what is the first thing that we all do when we are born? It's the breath. And what is the last thing when we die before is the breath. So in between the birth and the life, the death cycle is the breathing. And if we can focus on the breath, okay, and you don't have to sit and do pranayam. If you have the time and if you have the interest and if you can do pranayam, excellent. If you cannot do pranayam, just being aware of the breath is the game changer. Because we are breathing any which ways 24/7. But just in between that 24 hours, for a few minutes, if we can bring our awareness to the way we are breathing, it's going to be a game changer. Because then there is a physiological, mental, physical changes which happens when there is a breath awareness. And more, if you have breath awareness, it will change the way you react to a situation. So in between an inhalation and an exhalation, there is a natural pause. It is there for everybody. And when we are focusing on our breath, when we are focusing on how we are breathing, we tend to expand that pause between the inhalation and the exhalation. So the limbic process, like we are reacting to any kind of impulse, we're just reacting to it. That limbic process, that limbic brain sort of slows down. So whatever we are doing out of habit, we take a step back and we think, we assess the situation, and then we can act on it. It's like when you are here, you're seeing something from this distance, you're just seeing this part. As soon as you take a step back, you can see the whole picture, a better picture. So you just need to take a step back, focus on the breath, and that can be done just in a few minutes every single day. And that's the game changer. And who cannot do it? There is no contraindication. Everybody can do it. Whether you're rich, you're poor, at home, at work, young, old, busy, not busy, anywhere. So that's the beauty. That's one take I would say everybody should focus on, the breath.
Is there a short exercise that you can show us if it's not taking too long?
Right now here?
How long does it take? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea as to how long it would take. But yeah,
yes, sure, why not?
Skip it, but excuse me?
Yeah, sure, why not? I do this in all my classes, most of my classes. So if everybody can sit upright, that would be great. So all three of you, which is visible on the screen, and all the Facebook listeners, everybody. So sit upright, find a sitting posture. And see, I am not the culprit. Nilima has got you to do all this, okay? So don't blame me at the end of the session.
You said it's going to be short, right?
It will be very short, just a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go ahead and close your eyes. Go ahead and close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, be aware of your physical body. And now take your awareness to the breath. And just notice and observe the movement of the breath in your body. Don't alter it, don't change it. Simply connect to the natural movement of the breath inside your body. And now I'm going to say start. You're going to start counting your breath. Each breath is one inhalation and one exhalation. And you're going to continue counting the number of breaths in your mind for a minute. And I'm going to actually clock it so that we stay within a minute. So stay connected to the breath and start counting your breath. For somebody who has never observed the breath this way, it's very natural that the mind will wander. It's okay. Whenever you realize that your mind has wandered, you just bring it back to the breath. And just keep counting the breath, the number of breaths that you're taking. Another 30 seconds. Keep the breath natural. Don't try to change or alter the rhythm of the natural breath. Few more seconds. Stay with it. Wonderful. Stop counting your breath and then slowly open your eyes. So if I may ask, Nilima, how many breaths did you take?
9.
9. Rashmi, how many breaths did you take? You're on mute.
7.
7. Vaishnavi, how many breaths did you take?
I took 10, but after the 5th one, I started feeling a little more easier and longer with my breath.
Right, great.
You know what? When
So,
I do this in my regular class, I run few batches, which is for all the age groups, and on Friday I train my triathletes in terms of yoga, and this is the conditioning that I begin with. This really, takes you to inward within you, and it brings you that awareness. It's really wonderful experience to experience it.
yes, along with being very calming and grounding, the point I wanted to make here was most of the people who are not so much, connected to the breath, I'm sure each one of you are, because that's how you said the numbers so less. So you will be surprised. People say, I've taken 20 breaths in a minute. I've taken 25 breaths in a minute. So that means you're in a stress mode. Your sympathetic nervous system is really escalated. Your breath within a minute for a normal person, even if that person is not practicing pranayama, should be 8 to 10. So if you're doing 8 to 10 breaths, that is a good quality breath. You're doing long and deep breath. If you see a small baby breathing, a few months old baby breathing, you will see a visible movement of the belly. So the baby does deep abdominal breathing. As we start growing older, because of everything around us, our breath starts to become very short and shallow. We start doing more of chest breathing. So as soon as we can change the chest breathing to diaphragmic breathing or belly breathing, it changes the wiring inside the brain. It changes the nervous system, the mental state, and that is the key. And of course, don't expect yourself to do this kind of breathing every time, 24/7, but at least 2 to 3 minutes in a day, if you can focus on the breath and you can bring the counts down to 8 to 10 breaths in a minute, that will be a game changer if you do it consistently over a period of time. So that's the key. As simple as that. But what are we aspiring? Always we try to run after things which are not readily available to us, which is challenge, That is why the breath part of it just tends to get lost somewhere. We are ignorant about because it is very simply available to us.
I mean, those two things that you're talking about, posture and breathing, are something so important and doesn't take any extra time or effort to do that.
And
right?
it is ignored.
You can incorporate those two aspects, right?
Yes.
And to viewers, if may I ask, can you tell us how you're feeling? Just say one word as to how you're feeling right now after the breathing exercise. Moving on to the next question, Rashmi. I understand you work with a lot of triathletes and train them in open water swimming. So how is it training them? Because most of the triathletes are just learning to swim, right? So what challenges you face and how do they feel it? I mean, do they see that it's helping them in the running and cycling also once they have learned the swimming? What is your experience with them?
Okay, one thing I have noticed in India, I mean, whoever they come for, triathlon that focus in the mind, they're really good at running and swimming, running and cycling. Okay, people who are very good at marathons, running, they go for cycling, and once they get into cycling, and they go for swimming. But what I have observed in India is people who are good with running and cycling, they're not as good as compared to running and cycling with swimming. They are at very base level. The basics are not that great. So when they come to me for training, I have to completely make them unlearn and relearn again, because uh, uh, I have observed this, like, many of times they run behind the pace, they run behind, completing that distance. So my advice to these people, whoever wants to try triathlon, is don't focus on distance, don't focus more on your pace. Go for your, correct form, your correct breathing technique, get your basics clear. Okay, the open water is always challenging. You cannot compare it with pool swimming, wherein pool swimming is, pretty easy. It's swimming in the still water. I can't be biased which one is, very good, open water or pool water swimming. They both have their own significance. They both have their own challenges. Pool water, you can actually count that how many laps you have swum and how much, you can rest in between any point of time. But be it in open water, you can't do that. Okay, you'll come to know at the end of the swimming how much actually you have swum. So before getting to water, before trying for triathlons or any kind of open water swimming, get your basics cleared, get your techniques cleared, have that good endurance, and go for it. So these are the challenges I'm facing with my triathletes, because they want to learn quickly, they want to go faster and faster. The first question they ask me is, how do i how do I improve my pace? How do I get my get this how do I swim this much distance in this time? Okay, for that my answer will be same. Get your foundation strong, get your basics clear, then only you will enjoy the swimming and you will get through it.
That's true for any sport, right? Getting the
Yes,
basics right.
absolutely. Basics,
Even for
and it's
us,
very important.
the simplest form of fitness, we think running.
But again, it's very inspiring and it's very amazing to see these folks, trying swimming. I have triathletes of, mostly they are about 35. Okay. And these people, they are taking triathlon at this age is really amazing. That, they're like, they're getting into that mode. They want to scale up more in terms of fitness. They're challenging themselves. And that, uh, really good to improve themselves if they go for triathlon.
Right. Thank you. Vaishnavi, you do a lot of work towards women empowerment, and that too through fitness. So what is it that you do? Can you talk a bit about it?
So women empowerment now is a very straightforward word. Okay, so I kind of motivate a lot of women to take up dancing, even if it's very late in their life. So I have a separate batch for them so that it's not very intimidating for them. And then I give them performance opportunities because, it was their childhood dream. So to make them stand on stage and perform and get the audience to actually clap for them itself is a huge dream come true for them. You may be amazing, but when you get that gratification from people, that's the true kick, right? So I kind of motivate them, and then through fitness, especially through Kalari yoga. Okay, because a lot of them are initially skeptical that martial arts, no, it's not for me. I'm too old for it. This is not for me. I'm like, it martial art kind of gives you a different dimension to your practice because it improves your reflexes. Okay, so especially post 40, when you're starting to go on a reverse gear, that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I don't know all this, these kind of different workouts will really help you push your limit. Okay, so the picture that you're seeing also, this was when I took my troupe to perform in Delhi in front of Narendra Modi ji. So giving them opportunities like this to show them that, you know, you're there. You don't need, you know, you're like, here, I am here to help you achieve your dreams. So that's my goal. And it just gives me immense pleasure to see, because I'm kind of selfish. It actually inspires me a lot more to keep me going, so that I don't get slacked back or laid back when I see these amazing runners coming into class, or these amazing working women coming into class. I'm like, listen, get there, start practicing, start performing. What you've done is not enough.
It's amazing, you know, you performing there and the entire troop with Narendra Modi ji and with the Prime Minister of India. What a great feeling it must be.
It was amazing. And like I said, it's all because of my mother, my guru, Rajeshwari Sainath. So because of that strong backbone, I'm able to, you know, go into these kind of dimensions and kind of find my footing here.
Yeah, I mean, you've experimented, like bold experiments, trying to narrate the Greek mythological tales using Bharatanatyam, and you know, was it well accepted, Vaishnavi?
Oh yeah, because finally it all, you know, basically, if you know, let me go a little bit technical into my classical dance field. It's like, you know, the women were always considered as an object of beauty, and most of my items when I was learning when I was really young. So I wanted to do something different. That's why the whole Kalari Paito came into my life.
Right.
And now when I see, I love portraying the dance of Shiva, or, you know, stronger women like Jhansi Rani or Unniyarcha from Kerala. So then the whole idea of the dance is, you know, you should have elements like the beauty of dance, the strength of Kalari, and the flexibility of yoga is what makes my presentation a holistic combination.
Absolutely. It truly shows from your performances. Wonderful. Moving on to the next question. This one is again for all three of you. Uh, Being an entrepreneur is something you've all done. It's fantastic to see how you keep stretching yourself, choose to challenge. You challenged yourself and you made a name for yourself, an identity, created an identity for yourself. So, what did it take to become an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur in fitness industry? Pratibha, what were your learning challenges? Yeah. Please share
Passion
your
and
journey.
one-pointed.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So passion and one-pointed determination, and just taking that leap of faith. So when I started, as I mentioned, in Hyderabad, there was not much yoga, and I started where I live. You know, it is like one corner of the city in Secunderabad, a studio in somewhere inside, not on the main road. So somebody came and said, "You're digging a grave. Why are you starting here? People will not come for yoga. People will not spend." I said, "See, I'm doing it for passion. I enjoy what I'm doing. Even if there are few people coming and joining me, so be it." And lo and behold, over this 10 years, thankfully, 3 studios, a lot of corporate trainings. There was Happy Streets, which was conducted by Times of India, where we were training 200 people every Sunday doing yoga. So every morning, the challenge was, okay, people will go to Zumba or will they come to yoga? Because Zumba is much more fun, right? I mean, it is all age groups, it's music and dance, and you have fun. You can stop whenever. Yoga is a little more disciplined in that manner. But then, you know, week after week, every Sunday, just have 150, 200 people doing yoga with you. And then the organizers telling us that, yes, yoga is a hit. That was again very, very gratifying. So it's been a beautiful journey. So once I started, it was no looking back, thankfully. And it was just born out of passion and determination that, yes, whatever I feel and whatever I connect with that will the same resonance that will go on to other people. And then, you know, the tribe will just grow, and how the tribe has grown. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yoga is one activity that's become very popular, increasingly popular, that is being.
And here I would, sorry to interrupt, and here I would love to interrupt and add about the runners getting into yoga. So in the beginning, when I started training the runners for yoga, the mindset I would see is they always wanted to do more. Okay, let us do 108 Surya Namaskar. Let us sweat it out. Let us do this. Let us do that. But then now, with consistent effort, the slowing down aspect also they are enjoying. So just staying in the posture. So much so, even the yin yoga, where they do just about 4 or 5 postures in that 1 hour. So in the beginning, I could see the resistance, though they would not say out of respect, they wouldn't say anything, but I could always sense it from that body language that they're like, why isn't she making us do 108 Surya Namaskar? Why isn't she making us sweat? Why is this? I would rather go for a 10K run rather than doing this. From that phase to now, where people look forward to Monday and then they sort of completely surrender and they do whatever we ask them to, holding the postures, staying in that moment. I think somewhere in their running, they have found that all of this training has really helped, and that is why they connect with it and they continue doing it also.
Yeah.
So that has been like quite a difference. That I've seen that change, that transition happening within the running community also.
Yeah, I know we get so restless. Like, how long do I have to hold this posture? Why not go on to the next one and do something, which is demanding, right? More challenging. Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Rashmi?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Pratibha, because I do train marathoners and the triathletes. Okay, I have my own swim team as well. So when it comes to their flexibility and all, they just want to go beyond the pace and long runs. Same as Pratibha said, okay, people will say like, I'll rather do 10K run or 21 half marathon or something rather than doing yoga. But then when they actually started doing it over the period of time, they understood that how it actually plays important role in terms of, for their rehab, for their flexibility, to improve the range of motion. And again, the endurance part is always there. So I have seen my students improving on their pace, their heart rate, even the stride, okay, after their consistent yoga practice. It has really helped them, upscaling. They were stuck at one point. I could see that they are stuck at one point and they are not moving further. And they used to question themselves, what should actually I do? I mean, to improve myself, to improve my pace. How do I, rehab myself properly? So where then I actually had to tell them, look, here you're getting wrong. Okay, you need to improve on your flexibility. You need to improve on your breathtaking. You need to, if the lactate formation is there in your body, you need to somewhere release that. Okay, if the lactate formation is there in your body, you're straining your body. Okay, you're not releasing that, and the releasing lactate get released through a proper channel. And yoga plays very important role when it comes to, for rehab, to improve that flexibility and, to a certain extent, improve their performance. That is what I have seen with most of these triathletes and runners. And they have now understood, yes, this is the key. And they have been doing with me since very long time. And they're still being consistent with the yoga.
If I may add here, so whatever Rashmi said, even in their gait, even in their, the way they move, if the hip R is very flexible, because hip is one part which tends to get very, very tight because you're reusing the same kind of muscles when you're doing one kind of an activity. So when you bring in that mobility and flexibility aspect, even the gait and the way the foot is getting, stepping on the floor or on the road, that changes. And they really find a lot of difference in their running, which so many of them have come and told me that it has really improved with yoga.
And actually, even I would like to add, people need to really understand. Most of these runners, in running or cycling, okay, most of your lower body is used, okay, your upper body is hardly used, okay. So the shoulders, the back muscles, and your hip are the major part of your body where your stress, your tension that gets stored, okay. And it is very much important to release that stress through your body, through it, whatever channel, be it your massaging, be it your yoga or anything. To get that release, yoga plays very important role to, relieve that stress completely out of your body. And for that, flexibility and stretches, they are very important. That one needs to keep it in mind.
Vaishnavi, what's your take on it?
So I started this about 10 years back, started, teaching and having studios 10 years back when I was 21, because dance started very early in my life. But the whole idea of being a woman entrepreneur, to attach a fancy tag to it came in only when I came out of IIM Bangalore. And it's difficult, it's not easy. I was the only one in my course to come from a performing arts background. Like, it kind of was unheard of to have an entire, to be an entrepreneur in that field. Okay, so
Okay.
it was difficult to explain my idea, to kind of find my way and to match up with the other entrepreneurs who were there. But luckily, I had the great support. Running helped. I have made amazing friends because of running, because it's such a except on the race day, the other days are it's a group activity, so it's so
Right.
much fun, and
Yes.
traveling with them. So when you kind of have that support system, being a woman entrepreneur is more of a blessing. It is,
Okay. Vaishnavi, we have some questions, all of you, questions to all of you. This one is to you, Vaishnavi. Samira Nidhi Menon is
okay.
asking you, which one is the best for autistic kids? Yoga, swimming, or Kalari yoga? Or maybe Pratibha also can take it. All three of you, because all three activities are mentioned here.
Go for
I
it.
would suggest swimming. I would suggest swimming because I have dealt with such kind of case. Because in swimming, all your muscle, almost swimming is a complete body exercise, and most of your muscles, all kind of your muscles are involved in that. So I would prefer. I would suggest swimming.
Okay. And Vaishnavi, another question to you from Sundar. IIM, Kalariyapattu, Kalaripayattu, yoga, martial arts, PhD, entrepreneurship. What legacy do you want to leave?
Well, what you're saying is a legacy in itself. So, I mean, my aim is to kind of show a lot more the next gen, like the younger girls, that, taking up to yoga or dance is something that you can do it boldly. And it doesn't mean that because you have to do this, you have to give up on education. That was my primary motto, actually, to kind of keep studying and doing all this, was to show the society that you can do. Now you are in a stage where you can do two things, and you have to do two things to stay on top of your game. So it's very important that the next generation understands that classical dance is, you can be a professional choice.
Right. Great. We have another question from Mohan Kurapati. I'm getting ready for my triathlon. So, how yoga will help and what to do before or after training? Especially what kind of yoga I must learn for betterment. So,
Okay.
Pratibha and Rashmi, go ahead.
Okay.
Triathlon.
If he's getting for triathlon, the basic hatha and Ashtanga yoga would help him. Do focus more on flexibility, because all you need is like if you're running and cycling and you're doing all endurance kind of stuff, you need that flexibility in your body. So go for the basic stretches, the basic flexible asanas, which would release your muscles and make them flexible.
Okay.
And to add on to that, pranayam would definitely help because it will help you in the breath work and it will keep you going. So whenever you feel low on energy, proper breathing will help you keep going. So pranayam definitely is going to help you.
Great. Pratibha, another question for you. How would you see your journey looking back from where you started? From battling depression to enabling people, how would you see it looking back?
Very gratifying, very rewarding. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So you don't have to sort of put your boots up, where if you think that, okay, now I'm 40, now I'm 50, so that's now done and over with. There's no age, of course. Cliched as it may sound, but that is the hard fact, that you can start at any age. And if you're passionate and if you really believe in yourself, then there's no looking back. Things will start working with whatever you believe in. So it's been a very gratifying and a very rewarding journey. So just recently, one of my students, she met with an accident around, I think, 2018 or sometime. 2019, she came to me with a rod and a plate in her knees. And she was very, very disappointed with life. And she was very depressed with her own self. a lot of body image and everything was, self-esteem was very, very low. Today, she is almost into splits. She's getting her splits with the rod and the plate. And she says, more than that, now I'm handling my husband's business. I am like looked up in my, amongst my relatives, my friends, my children look up to me. I've become a sort of, like an example who people look up to. And she attributes all of this to yoga. So it's been a very rewarding journey. This is just one of the incidents. There are so many more such gratifying incidents where people come up and they say that this is what has changed. So when I saw my life transforming, and that sort of, I passed it on to others, and then everybody resonated together, it's been wonderful.
That's amazing, Pratibha. Seriously, after a knee surgery, coming back and doing the splits, it's amazing. I'm sure it's hard to believe unless you see it, right?
Yeah.
Having the rod in your legs and doing that.
Yes.
Actually, I have one question for you. Do you have any targets to dive in specific places around the world? And this will be our last question for the day.
Okay. See, I had this target by July 2021. English to swim English Channel was my target, but then we actually started practicing ourselves. But then COVID hit, and then we had to postpone our target. So maybe in the coming years, I will again join back to my training and finish off my English Channel. And when it comes to diving, again, I want to get back to my competitive diving, where I would be competing with the youngsters. Okay, it's little difficult though, because with the age, certain transformation happens. And when you have a kid, definitely after postpartum, there are certain body changes that wouldn't allow me to, go to that extent. But then it's all in my head. It's all in one's head. If you train your mind, you will definitely be there. So that is how I'm taking, and my motto is to get back to competitive diving back.
Amazing. I'm sure you'll do it, Rashmi. Good luck with everything. And it's been a wonderful session. Thank you, everyone. And people on our Facebook chat, they're all amazed by your journeys. Absolutely amazed. So am I.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pratibha, Rashmi, and Vaishnavi, once again, thank you from bottom of my heart. It was an absolute pleasure interacting with you. Thanks for all these valuable insights and your experiences. Thank you. And over to Jia for formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Neelima, for facilitating today's webinar. A few key takeaways from today's talk. We got to learn about the history of Kalari and also learn the basic features and characteristics of yoga and swimming. Got to learn quite a bit about the inspiring stories behind these very strong and powerful women. Also got to know about the advantages of pursuing each of these sports and how they overcame their respective hurdles in their stories. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi, Rashmi, and Pratibha for these valuable inputs. Thanks for taking the time out and sharing your experiences and learning with us today. And to our audience, thank you for spending time with us today. The recording of this event will be available on our Hyderabad Runners Facebook as well as the Airtel Hyderabad Marathon YouTube page. Please come back to watch again and share it on your social media profiles and to others who can benefit with #Hyderabad Runners and #Beyond the Track. Those participating in our club run tomorrow, both in person and virtual, have loads of fun and run safe following all safety protocols. Next month, being the harbinger of Women's Day, we have a series of webinars showcasing powerful women runners within and outside Hyderabad Runners for all the 4 weeks. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Until then, this is Jia from Hyderabad Runners signing off. Stay safe and stay healthy.